entrepreneur starting a company, you always want to aim for monopoly, and you want to always avoid competition. Hence, competition is for losers.
Competition is for losers. Create a monopoly. Everyone keeps coding 0 to 1 like it's gospel. But what if I told you there was a smarter way to play the game, especially if you're not sitting on a $5 million pre-seed round? It's a way where you don't avoid competition, you embrace it. It's called building a Minipoly and is the most realistic way to win as a small startup these days. So first, what does 0 to 1 actually say? Peter Thiel's whole idea is that vertical progress, going from 0 to 1, is more valuable than horizontal progress, just going from 1 to n. Vertical means innovation, like going from an old school phone to a smartphone. Just like Apple did with the iPhone back in 2007, they jumped categories. That's what Peter Thiel means by creating something truly new. And when you do that successfully, the goal is to become a monopoly. You own the market, you escape competition. And competition can be ugly, like the airlines market. In 2012, according to the 0 to 1 book, the average plane ticket was $178. Airlines made just 37 cents per passenger trip. That's a profit margin of 0.2%. The airline market is a perfect example that competition kills margins. Now, on the other hand, if we take a look at Google, who owns a monopoly with Google Ads, back in 2023, they made $237 billion in revenue with a 65% gross margin business. When you have a monopoly, you don't fight for peanuts, you set the rules. But here's the problem, you can't afford to build a monopoly. To build a true monopoly, you need proprietary tech, network effects, economies of scale, and strong brain power. Most of those things only show up after you survive years of iteration, scaling, and probably burning millions of dollars. Just to give you an idea, in 2024, the average startup raised $4 to $7 million to reach Series A. So unless you're well founded or incredibly lucky, you'll never survive long enough to build those monopoly effects. And even if you raise, the odds are against you. The chances of becoming a unicorn are under 0.05%. Most VC-backed startups either die or get acqui-hired for less than what they raise with liquid preferences clauses that completely screw founders. You also need to remember that there's only a handful of Google, Facebook, Amazon, or ChatGPT. Building a monopoly is the biggest go big or go home race ever. So what should you do instead? Build a Minipoly. A Minipoly is like a monopoly but inside a tiny niche. It's small, it's targeted, and it's extremely powerful. With a Minipoly, it's not you go big or you go home. You build a startup that makes money from day one where minimal capital investment is required. You can do it bootstrap or with one round of founding. With a Minipoly, you won't build a unicorn startup, but do you really need a unicorn startup anyway? Let me show you. Unless you want to change the world, the goal of any business, startup or not, should be to make money and benefit its founders. So let's compare two situations. Two co-founders of a $1 billion VC-backed startup versus two co-founders of a $20 million ARR bootstrap startup. So let's say you and your co-founder build a startup that eventually hits a $1 billion valuation. Congratulations, you are now a unicorn startup. But to do that, you've raised multiple rounds of funding to get there. First, a seed round where you raise $2 million and give up about 20%. Then a Series A where you raise $10 million and give up another 20%. Then a Series B where you raise about $30 million and you give up another 15%. And finally, a Series C to D+ where you raise about $50 million plus and give up another 20%. At each round, you're getting diluted and your total founder ownership drops. So in the end, your final ownership per founder is about 5 to 7%. Now let's say your company exits at a $1 billion valuation, so the founder payout because of preferences will be about $16 million for the two combined co-founders. So to summarize, each founder will get about $30 million before taxes and liquidity challenges, which sound pretty great, right? But to achieve that, it probably took 7 to 10 years. You raised $100 million plus and you had a board controlling most of your decisions. You also worked under constant growth pressure and had very little optionality. Finally, throughout the journey, you probably didn't become a millionaire except if you managed to cash out once or twice after your Series B. Now, let's say you and your co-founder built a $20 million ARR bootstrap SaaS. No VC, no dilution. And let's say you own 90 to 100% combined. Maybe you gave up 5 to 10% to early employees. Let's assume a modest 20% net profit margin, which is very reasonable for a SaaS. So the annual profit is $20 million times 20%, which equals $4 million profit per year. And then this amount is split between the two founders. So basically each founder earns potentially $2 million per year in actual cash before taxes. That's every single year with full control, no investors, and optional liquidity. Now, let's say you run it like that for 5 years. It's 5 years in operation, which is $10 million in personal profit per founder. But because you have optionality, you can also sell the business if you want. So let's say you sell the business with a 6 times revenue multiple, which is SaaS average. So $20 million ARR times 6 equals $120 million valuation. And let's say you own 90% of it, that's a $108 million to founders combined. So each founder walks away with $50 to $55 million post-sale depending on taxes. That's why I'm always saying that a $20 million ARR bootstrap startup is worth more money in my eyes, at least, than a $1 billion VC-backed company. And if you do the math and if you do your research, you will realize that there's a lot more $20 million ARR startups out there than $1 billion VC-backed companies. So there's more liquidity, more everything. If you want an example of such companies, go check out Lemlist from Lempire, ConvertKit, or Retention.com. With that being said, how can you build a Minipoly? Here's how you build one. Step 1, pick a crowded market, something very big. For example, at Breakcold, we picked the CRM market because it's the biggest SaaS market in the world. Step 2, find an underserved or neglected niche inside your gigantic market. For example, in my SaaS market, there are marketing CRMs and sales CRMs. We niche down in the sales CRM space, and within the sales CRM market, we niche down again on sales CRM for B2B digital SMBs that are social power user. Step 3, destroy your niche. Once you've identified your micro niche within your gigantic market, build the best product possible for that niche. Step 4, own it. You need to become the default tool in that sub-segment. You don't need millions of users, you need the right ones, and they'll be willing to pay a premium because there won't be strong alternatives to you or alternatives at all. My startup is still in its early days, but if you need more inspiration of Minipolies, you can take a look at these 2 examples. The first example is Taplio, a content scheduling SaaS. This software makes more than $7 million per year. What they did is that within the gigantic content scheduling software market, Taplio has built a Minipoly because they own the sub-niche of LinkedIn content scheduling software. Yes, they have few competitors here and there, but there's no products coming even close to them. Another example of a Minipoly is Submagic. They're currently doing over $8 million ARR bootstrap in just 2 years. What they did is that within the highly competitive video software market, they decided to only focus on short-form video editing, and within that niche, they specialize only in subtitles. With the Stellar and Sniper team, they killed that niche and became the de facto software for video short-form subtitles. So basically, what they did is that they took one feature from the hundreds of features of traditional video editing softwares and made it better than any potential SaaS in the world. One more time, yes, they have few competitors, but they really don't and are still growing super rapidly. Minipolies simply work because you don't have to be everything to everyone. You can just be irreplaceable to a small group of people, and once you've nailed that, then you can expand horizontally or raise funding if you want. A startup with 1,000 die-hard fans is often more resilient than one with 50,000 shallow ones. You don't need to become a unicorn to win, you need to survive, stay profitable, and grow your leverage. And if at some point you want to become a monopoly, you absolutely can. After all, Amazon started with books, not all types of products. So in conclusion, monopolies are sexy in theory, but Minipolies are profitable in practice. So if you're an early stage founder, stop dreaming about building the next Google. Build a Minipoly first. own a micro niche, then decide whether you want to scale or go deep. That's how you survive and that's how you win. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel and make sure to also check out my sales CRM if you need to close deals faster. Cheers, bye.